think we've got some breaking news here.
Right.
I think Josh Simons, the Makerfield MP, is standing aside for Andy Burnham. I'm just getting this now, Mark.
Right.
It looks like Josh Simons MP has decided to stand aside in his seat for Makerfield in order to let Andy Burnham run in that seat. He says in a tweet just released, "For decades, Westminster has overseen the managed decline of towns like mine. We've talked big, then acted small, stuck in a politics of incrementalism that cannot meet the moment. We have lost the trust of those our party was built to serve. It is my unwavering belief that nothing short of urgent, radical, courageous reform will make a difference. That must start with a change in leadership." He says, "Today I'm putting the people I represent and the country I love first, and I will be resigning as MP for Makerfield. I am standing aside so Andy Burnham can return to his home, fight to re-enter Parliament, and if elected, drive the change our country is crying out for." He says, "It's not been an easy decision. It's my family's home." But he says we must make choices. And in recent days, I found myself with a difficult one: defend the status quo or step forward and act. I have made my choice. He says, "This is the fight. I believe Andy is the one to lead it." So breaking news there. Josh Simons is standing down as MP for Makerfield in order to make way for Andy Burnham. Labour has a 5,400 majority there. It's been a Labour-held seat since its creation in 1983.
Yeah, I think it's Makerfield, is it?
Makerfield, sorry.
Well, this is precisely what we were just talking about. And Andy Burnham has found his constituency. So, what happens now, do you think?
Well, I think that there's now a question about... So I'm just reading it, Mark. I'm just processing the news here. Look, where have we got to? Josh Simons from Makerfield is standing down in order to let Andy Burnham run in the seat. For days, we've been told that Andy Burnham had found a way back into Parliament. Now the question is about the National Executive Committee. The first thing is Andy Burnham will have to get approval to be able to stand in that by-election. The Gorton and Denton by-election, he was blocked, but that was at a time where Keir Starmer and his team had a much stronger hold on the NEC. That's the ruling body of the Labour Party, and they had a big hold on that, on the NEC, and I just think it's going to be really difficult for... I think it's going to be really difficult for Keir Starmer to block Andy Burnham from coming back into Parliament, not least because I don't know if he'll have the support on the NEC to do that. So it looks like... we'll have to see, Mark, but that will be the next stage. But this really... Look, the starting gun is shot now. I mean, you've got Wes Streeting resigning. He clearly wants to run. He's called the Prime Minister to set out a timetable. And now you've got a few hours after that, 4 hours later, you've got an MP resigning in order to allow to get Andy Burnham back into Parliament. And once Andy Burnham's in Parliament, I think a leadership race begins. I think what might happen is, depending on the timing of this by-election, it could be that race begins and maybe is concluded by Labour Party conference at the end of September. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself because we don't know what's going to happen.
But this makes it more likely that this whole process will be put back and to allow Andy Burnham now.
Well, it has to. I mean, there isn't. But the point is, Mark, there isn't a process at the moment because although Wes Streeting resigned, he did not trigger a leadership race. Now, there was a question about whether he didn't trigger it because he thought it was better not to trigger it. and have a discussion in the party, or he wants the Prime Minister to lead that process. That's what he argued in the letter. Then there was another school of thought that said, well, he's not triggering it because he hasn't got the numbers to actually fire the gun on it. But a few hours after he resigned, we now know that Andy Burnham has found a way, subject to the NEC, the National Executive Committee of the Labour Party, approving it, that he can come back into Parliament. And at that point, given the mood of the party, 90 MPs saying that Keir Starmer needs to stand down. He's had a cabinet resignation, 4 ministerial resignations. You can see that the mood in the party will be to trigger a race. MPs could even organise around one candidate to kick the race off.
Yeah. I mean, and the interesting thing about this is the speed with which this has been announced today. I mean, would you think this has been in concert with Wes Streeting at all? I
don't know.
Difficult to say, isn't it?
I don't know. I think that what's going on here is that everyone is running in their own. You know, there's different leadership challenges. There's different groupings of MPs. They are sort of plotting and trying to work out how to get their candidate through. And I think that Andy Burnham, regardless of Wes Streeting, has been for weeks trying to work out a way to get back to Parliament in time to run in a leadership race. The reason he's tried to stand in the Gorton and Denton by-election, which the Greens won, was exactly because he wanted to be in Parliament in case there was a leadership race. And what we're finding out this evening is that he has found a way to try to come back via the seat of Josh Simons in Makerfield.
Yeah, OK. Beth, for now, thank you very much indeed. We're joined now by the MP Carl Turner, who's currently sitting as an independent, having lost the Labour whip, frequent critic of the Prime Minister, it has to be said. Good evening. Thanks for being with us. We'll talk about Wes Streeting in just a moment, Carl. What do you make, though, of what Beth Rigby has just been breaking here, that Andy Burnham seems to have found a potential way back?
Well, it's an incredible event, isn't it? This is potentially a game changer. The reality was Burnham couldn't get a seat. The NEC had blocked him. We've now got Josh Simons, who's saying he's standing down specifically for Andy Burnham in a seat which is a seat known to Andy Burnham, which I think he would have a very good chance of winning. So the NEC are very unlikely to block Andy Burnham now as a result of that. And look, the truth is this, it's ironic. Why? Because Josh Simons, of course, is a right-hand man of Morgan McSweeney. He was briefing and smearing MPs for a long time from number 10 Downing Street. And of course, Simons was involved in Labour Together, where there was all sorts of shenanigans. So this is an heroic thing for Josh Simons to have done. I'm incredibly grateful to him because the Labour Party is in a terrible mess and we cannot carry on in this way. The electorate can't stand it. We need to get on with the job of governing. And the reality is Andy Burnham is one of those candidates who could deliver an election victory for us in a way that, frankly, Keir Starmer just couldn't muster.
Right. I mean, and what about what Josh Simons has said in this? Well, it is a long letter to his constituents. I could not stand here and tell you that our politics is broken and things need to change, then stand in the way of supporting that change. That is why I've decided to put you, the people I represent, the country I love, first.
Well, as I say, it's heroic. He's not been very popular in the Parliamentary Labour Party over the last several months. He's not liked very much by the left of the Labour Party because of the Labour Together shenanigans. And he's not very much liked by the moderates anymore because he's seen as speaking against the PM after he was sacked as a minister. He was a junior minister for a short time in the Cabinet Office. And of course, he fell out with the Prime Minister over the stuff that had gone on with Labour Together, which his pal, Morgan McSweeney, was heading up for a long time. This is an heroic thing for Josh Simons to have done. I don't know him very well, by the way, but I speak to him occasionally. I just thank him. This is really and truthfully a game changer. And actually, potentially, the action of Josh Simons has allowed the Labour Party to live on and win again. That's the truth.
Well, I mean, Andy Burnham's got to win it. He's got to be allowed in. I mean, do you think there's any chance that the NEC or Keir Starmer would try to block it?
Keir should never have blocked him in the first place. But look, it's not in the bag yet, is it? Because the electorate are the ones who decide whether an MP is elected, and they may decide that they don't want Andy Burnham. But he's very popular in the country, Burnham, most popular politician in frontline politics. He's been brilliant as the Greater Manchester Regional Mayor. There's no, politics aside, you couldn't criticise Burnham's record on that. But look, the Prime Minister could block him through the NEC, and he could block him as well, because it's a matter for the Chief Whip to decide when that writ's moved. So it's not a case of Simon standing down and there's a by-election announced. It's a matter for the Chief Whip holding the parliamentary seat to decide when that by-election happens, and there's a process in Parliament for that to happen. But I tell you now, if that Chief Whip, Johnny Reynolds, is seriously considering taking an instruction for number 10 to block and delay that writ being moved, I'm afraid to tell him this: there will be a rebellion in the Labour Party backbenches, and I think in the front benches of the Labour Party in government, that is so almighty, the Labour Party will definitely be into extinction territory, because we'll never govern again, because the civil war would be so bloody that we just cannot continue ever.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm just looking at the majority in Makerfield.
About 5,000.
5,000. Yeah. So do you think? Well,
it was a seat represented by Yvonne Vervaag, who was a brilliant MP. She was very influential in the Labour Party in terms of some of the campaign she was involved in. She was a senior person in Citizens Advice Bureau, incredibly involved in campaigning, very well respected in Parliament, I have to say, as well. And she left a legacy in that constituency. I know Yvonne well. I know she looked after her constituency incredibly well. And I think the Labour Party have got a good chance if Andy Burnham's the candidate.
I guess reform is the problem. Nigel Farage has just reacted to this, saying we look forward to the contest. We will absolutely throw everything at it. That's the problem.
Well, I'm sure he will. Look, I'm sick of hearing about Farage, the man of the people. This is the guy who gets £5 million crypto billionaire money into his bank account as a gift. Goodness me. Come off it. Listen, Andy Burnham's a candidate to win that seat. Any blocking, any attempt to try and stop him, I tell you now, it'll be the biggest mistake the Labour Party ever makes. And I tell you something, I was the person begging the Prime Minister, begging him when him and I was on good terms, not to block Andy Burnham. Should never have been blocked in the first place. And I tell you now, it won't be blocked this time.
Right. And just finally, Carl, I mean, we had all sorts of other things to talk about with Wes Streeting and everything, but this has taken over, really. Just finally, how do you think this could play out then, time-wise, from here?
I mean, look, there's got to be a slow process to get the NEC to meet. It should be a meeting of the entire NEC, never mind the disciplinary committee with 8, 9, 10 members on it, with the Prime Minister being in control of it. Should be the NEC of 40 members. They should get round a table very quickly, agree to let Burnham stand in that seat, prepare for a candidate to take the regional mayoralty as the Labour candidate for that by-election, move forward as fast as we can, but ensure that Burnham's in that contest. The longer the Prime Minister's in Downing Street, for me, I'm afraid to say, the longer our chances, the more unlikely, the more remote our chances of winning elections ever again are.
Right.
We promised stable government. We promised to do away with the shenanigans of the previous Tory government. We've been in number 10 for what is it now, 22 months. We've had shenanigans after shenanigans after shenanigans. And let me tell you, it was Keir Starmer's leadership. It was the way he dealt with parliamentary Labour Party people. Wes Streeting put in his letter today. People like me, loyal to the Labour Party, 16 years. You have the audacity to tell him that the jury trial curtailment plan is a bad idea for any government, never mind the Labour government, and you lose the whip. But it's worse than that, because they make stuff up and they smear you. That was down to the Prime Minister, make no mistake.
Right. Carl, thank you very much indeed. And just to repeat the news that Josh Simons, the man you see there in the middle, MP for Makerfield, has announced that he will stand aside for Andy Burnham to fight a by-election. So a major development this evening after an earlier major development, which was involving Wes Streeting, who has resigned as Health Secretary. Beth Rigby is with me here. So are we seeing a little bit of momentum that could make life even more awkward for the Prime Minister?
Look, I think there's a few things going on here. I mean, it's been, since the beginning of this week, a Prime Minister on very fragile ground indeed, trying to hold on. And it just seems that the momentum is washing him away at some point when we don't know. But you've had 90 MPs say he needs to stand down, 4 ministerial resignations. The Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, has resigned today. And now there is an MP, Josh Simons, standing down in his constituency of Makerfield in order to allow Andy Burnham, the Greater Manchester Mayor, to stand in a by-election so that if a timetable should be set out for the leadership change of the Labour Party, that Andy Burnham, who is a runaway favourite with the party members and has a big base in the Parliamentary Labour Party, would be able to return to Parliament and stand in that election. And Keir Starmer has been trying to hold the line. He's been deploying some of his faithful cabinet to try and hold the line. And his position, I don't think it will change regardless of what happens, will be until a leadership contest is triggered with 81 MPs backing a candidate to replace him as Prime Minister. He's going to dig in and carry on. I think there's a couple of things. In terms of the writ for the by-election, of course, it's the Chief Whip, Johnny Reynolds, that would move for that by-election. So they could try and delay a by-election, but I think you just heard that was Carl, wasn't it? How politically difficult and explosive that could be. But there will be nervousness in the Labour Party because they had a terrible drubbing around the Greater Manchester area in the local elections. And also, of course, if Andy Burnham were to stand in a by-election and win a seat, they would have to run a mayoral election. Keir Starmer has been asked about this, was asked about this again on Monday, and he's stuck with his position that if Andy wanted to return to Parliament after 2028, when his term of Manchester Mayor came up, then that could be an option. But there was a view within the party, in terms of the leadership of the party, that they were not going to be triggering a Greater Manchester mayoral race just to get Andy Burnham back into the Commons. I spoke to one supporter of Wes the other day, and they sort of also said, you know, they don't think it's a great look for, you know, triggering by-elections in order to get someone back to stand for leader. I mean, Josh has obviously got his reasons to do this. Josh Simons, he said, the route to this future requires what we have to do today. He says we need to shift the power that's stacked to gain places like ours in Makerfield. He says, I do not believe this government is delivering the urgent, radical, brave reform we need. We need a new direction, and I believe Andy Burnham can provide it. So just briefly, what the pressure will now be on the Prime Minister to do what exactly? I mean, how will this, or could this be, how could this turn out now in terms of, you know, someone actually going over the top, someone triggering a contest of some sort? Well, I think the contours of the contest are now shaping up. You've got Wes Streeting, who's resigned and clearly would like to run for the leadership, although when you look at the Parliamentary Labour Party and also when you look really at the membership, Wes Streeting on the progressive wing of the party, more the centre to the, not the left of the party, not as popular. The membership of the Labour Party tacks further left, really, than the more broader electorate. So you've got Wes Streeting clearly wanting to get ready to go. And now we are looking at a way in which the MP you see on your screen, Josh Simons, is trying to work out a way to help the guy that you also see on your screen there, Andy Burnham, get back to Westminster in order to try and trigger a race. So you've got two would-be candidates. What about Angela Rayner? Will she also run, or will she decide to not run because she's obviously the same wing of the party as Andy Burnham? There are a lot of people in Labour that think there should be a woman leader.
Yeah.
You know, Labour have never had a female leader. They've got a lot of female MPs, but they've never had a female leader. So it's beginning to ramp up, however much the Prime Minister would want it not to. Yeah.
Beth, we're just going to go to Downing Street and talk to John Craig. And, John, how will that be going down, do you think, in that building behind you? Andy Burnham seems to have found his potential route back.
I think they will regard the resignation of Josh Simons as an absolute act of treachery. This is somebody who the Starmerites believed was one of them. It's a major surprise. He was not on any of our lists. We were looking at older MPs, veteran MPs possibly standing down. Graham Stringer and also Peter Dowd in Merseyside, Bootle, Graham Stringer in one of the Manchester suburban seats. And over the past 24 hours, a couple of other Manchester seats close to Gorton and Denton. Makerfield, though, is ideal for Andy Burnham because, of course, it's right next to his old Lee seat. It's in the, I think I'm right in saying it's in the borough of Wigan, very close to Lee. And well, you've already discussed the majority. It's 5,399. But the reason that Josh Simons is such a surprise is because, as Carl Turner was saying, he was seen very much as a Starmer ally. He ran this outfit called Labour Together. He was briefly a minister and he had to quit. Carl Turner called it shenanigans. What it involved was the smearing of some Sunday Times journalists. And he had to quit because of that, because Labour Together were involved in that. Now, the seat, let's just look at the maths of that seat. As you've discussed, Reform was second there. So Josh Simons had 18,000, just over 18,000. Reform were at nearly 13,000. Conservatives way back. So it looks like being a straight fight between Labour and Reform UK. We've already heard from Nigel Farage saying they'll throw everything at it. Reform's results in Greater Manchester in the local elections were pretty good. It really is going to require someone of the star quality and charisma, as his supporters see it, of Andy Burnham to hold on to this seat. It's a gamble. And, of course, you've been discussing the timing. Well, Parliament's risen for this week. The earliest that writ could be moved would be early next week in the House of Commons. But then there's the whole process of the bureaucratic process of the National Executive, either approving or blocking his candidacy. So it's a gamble by Andy Burnham. It's not the safest seat for him to fight by any means. He's still got some hurdles. My view is I think it makes Angela Rayner standing less likely now, and it could just be a straight fight between Burnham and Streeting. But of course, Keir Starmer may want to stay in the race as well, a three-way contest.
OK, John, thank you very much indeed. Well, let's put all that to the Work and Pensions Secretary, Pat McFadden, who joins me now. So Wes Streeting has quit. His aides say he has the numbers. Andy Burnham looks like he might have a route back. Isn't it time for the Prime Minister to succumb to the inevitable?
Well, the Prime Minister's less than 2 years into a 5-year term, and he's got a deep sense of duty to the country. I accept it's been a dramatic week, lots of turbulence, resignations, statements, this latest news about Josh Simons standing down. The Prime Minister didn't create any of this, and in my conversations with him during this week, he's been determined to stay on, do his duty, do his job. But
the question is, the public have rejected him. A quarter of his MP, 91 MPs now, 4 junior ministers, a cabinet minister. Now Andy Burnham looks like he's coming back. As I say, I mean, the party's in danger of becoming a laughingstock with a leader sort of, refusing to budge.
Well, the leader was elected by the public at a general election a couple of years ago. I accept we had tough local election results last week. We've had that before. We've also had fantastic local election results in the past and then gone on to lose general elections. These are two different questions. And he sees it as his duty to carry on to do his job, and he accepts that MPs are hurting over seeing good councillors lose their seats. But I think he wants to stay on.
I mean, when you sorry, Beth, but when are you going to come out and do one of these interviews and say, yes, the game is up?
Well, there's a lot of dramatic things happening, and there's a lot of assumptions being made. Whenever you call an unnecessary by-election, you never know how the voters will react. And in a democracy, it is the voters who decide, not the outgoing MP, not anyone who wants to be the candidate, no one else. It's the voters in the end who will decide who the next MP from Makerfield is.
The Prime Minister won't block him this time, will
Well, that's a matter for the NEC. They'll have to consider that.
What will the Prime Minister's view be, do you think?
Well, I don't know. I've just heard this news in the last hour.
What would your view be?
Last half hour.
What would your view be, just on that?
Look, I think Andy is a hugely talented person. I've certainly not come on here to speak ill of Andy Burnham. Okay. I have a good relationship with him. I've known him for 20 years. I think he's done a great job as the MP for Manchester.
Would you allow him back?
Well, that's a matter for the NEC, not a matter for me.
Just to interrupt you, Andy Burnham has just tweeted while you're on air. He said, I can confirm I am requesting permission of the NEC to stand in the Makerfield by-election. I grew up in this area. I've lived here for 25 years. I care deeply about it and its people. So he wants to stay. It's quite a long tweet. I won't read all of it to you. We'll run out of interview time. He wants to stand. The Prime Minister said on Monday that once Andy Burnham completes his term as mayor, it's up to Andy Burnham what he does. You cannot block Andy Burnham, can you, politically? You cannot block him. Well, please don't deflect onto the NEC.
No,
you know what I'm asking
it's their
you.
decision. But even if they didn't block him, it's the voters of Makerfield who will decide.
Well,
there's a lot of assumptions.
What would you advise? What would you advise him to do?
Sorry, Mark, but what I'm saying to you is you have Wes Streeting has resigned and wants to clearly run for the leadership. He's asked the Prime Minister to set out a timetable. Andy Burnham, who is very popular with your MPs, is now indicating that he wants to come back to Parliament. Will the Prime Minister, his Cabinet, the Labour Party try to block Burnham? Or do you accept that you need to allow this to play out? You need to allow Burnham to have a go at this?
I think there's a lot of steps to go here and a lot of assumptions. And the biggest one being that an MP can create a by-election, which isn't necessary. In the past, that has proven to be a risky thing to do. And in the end, it is the voters of Makerfield who will decide who the next MP is. With regards to
But it will be
leadership,
you and the NEC and Keir Starmer who decides whether they get a chance to do that.
They will decide on the shortlist and so on. But if I could return to Beth's question about leadership, there is a process for this laid down in the Labour Party's rules. You know what it is. It's about the volume of nominations that any aspiring candidate has to get. That process hasn't been triggered, despite all the turbulence and drama that we've seen in the past week.
That wasn't my question. My question is, do you think it would be right for the Labour Party, NEC, to block Andy Burnham from running in that seat if that's what he would like to do?
What they'll look at is they will look at the consequences for the seat and also the consequences for Greater Manchester, which, of course, is where Andy is the incumbent mayor. And they'll take all that into account and they'll make a decision.
What do you think?
I think it's up to them.
What do you think?
I think it's up to them.
I think you're trying to avoid the question. I cannot see a world in which the Prime Minister blocks Andy Burnham from coming back and doesn't trigger a leadership race.
That may be the case. But constitutionally and in a rule book, it is their decision.
Isn't the point here that the Prime Minister has a chance to do this with dignity on his own terms? He could just announce a timetable for a contest. He could make it absolutely clear that he wants the broadest possible list of candidates. He could do it on his own terms with dignity. Why isn't he thinking about doing that? Is he thinking about doing that?
I think two reasons, really, in response to that. First, as I said, for all the turbulence that we've had in the past week, and I wish we hadn't had it, but we have, there's no escaping it, he didn't create it. He didn't ask anyone to resign. He didn't ask anyone to post statements, sign letters, all the rest of it. And secondly, he feels a deep sense of duty to the country as the elected Prime Minister. He understands that he has his critics, that people want him to do better, that the government has to be better. He made a speech about this on Monday. He knows that. He's aware of that. So I think it is not as simple as saying to him, some people are unhappy with you, why don't you trigger a leadership?
Isn't the point here that we are going to look at weeks, probably months of utter chaos at a time when there's an economic crisis, cost of living crisis, wars on 2 continents, and Keir Starmer is going to sit in Downing Street and not arrange an orderly transfer of power, or at least a leadership contest in which he might take part?
Well, he would.
Why doesn't he do that?
He would take all those factors you just cited, the effects of what's happening in the Middle East, all the things that are facing the country, and see that as a reason not to trigger weeks of a leadership contest, but as a reason to continue with the job which he was elected to do. And that has been his response to this all week.
Pat, the Prime Minister has lost the support of nearly a quarter of the Parliamentary Labour Party. He's lost a Cabinet Minister. There's been 4 ministerial resignations. Whether for all the goodwill in the world and the best intentions he wants to continue as Prime Minister, can you hand on heart say that he can command the confidence of the Labour Party anymore? I mean, the writing's on the wall, isn't it?
It's been a dramatic week, but I think he can continue. He wants to continue, and he wants to do the job he was elected to do.
Is he going to stand at the next election as Prime Minister for Labour?
He's got every right to do that. He was elected on a 5-year mandate. It's 3 years away. But I believe he wants to continue.
Can you say, hand on heart, that the rest of the Cabinet support him wholeheartedly?
Well, I'm not party to any other conversations that he's had with anyone else.
You must know what other people think. You must know what other senior cabinet ministers think. Can you say, hand on heart, the rest of the Cabinet wholeheartedly support the Prime Minister?
Was it Queen Elizabeth I who said, I don't have a window into people's souls?
Well,
all I can tell you is about the conversations I've had with the Prime Minister this week, which are a politician who deeply regrets all this drama and turbulence and wishes it wasn't happening, but who has this sense of duty to his job, to the country, and wants to continue doing that and serving the public.
Pat, you keep saying that he regrets the chaos like it's nothing to do with him. The reason that the party is turning away from Keir Starmer is because of Keir Starmer. It's because of a terrible set of election results. It's because of Peter Mandelson. It's because the mistakes you've made in government, and they've decided that Keir Starmer is not the guy that will lead the party into the next election. They've lost confidence in him. Do you think they have lost confidence in him? And how does he get it back?
The people who've published statements have. But we've also had a letter this week from a very large number of MPs saying that they support Keir Starmer, that they don't want to see a leadership election.
Yeah.
So that is not every voice. And we have had, as I said, we've had very tough local elections in the past when we've been in government, and we've managed to recover from them. I'm not saying that's inevitable.
Right,
I'm not complacent about it. What I am saying is that a general election is a different question from local elections.
Would you personally like to see Andy Burnham back in Parliament?
Look, I think he's a huge talent. I think an unnecessary by-election is a risk. And the reason I say it's a risk is I think we're making assumptions about the voters in this. And in any by-election, it's the voters who decide. But I do think Andy is a big talent. I like Andy. I respect Andy. I think he's done a good job as Manchester Mayor. And in my capacity as Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, I've had really good dealings with Andy on the issues that we care about youth unemployment, getting people back to work, and so on.
Pat McFadden, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.